This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Alongside Royden Ogletree, KWTX, who's, we're going to call you Timmy Tuesday.
Timmy Tuesday.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of.
Not the worst thing I've been called.
It's not great, but like we have a Monday guy, we have a Tuesday guy, we have a Thursday guy. Wednesday might be more of the rotating.
Timmy Tuesday.
But since you're the Tuesday guy,
I'll try to think of something better before the end of the show.
Yeah, I was gonna say like Tommy Tuesday, but then that's like, I don't know. I can't. I don't know. We'll get nicknames for everybody.
Well, we'll work it out.
Yeah, Chris Allman, who's Mondays. I called him Mr. Monday yesterday, and it didn't work. It didn't stick. I did last week.
Manic
I said,
Monday?
We've got a case of the Mondays. He said, no, we can't do that.
Why?
Well, I don't know.
I did that. Just an anecdote. I did that to my boss one time. I was like, "You got a case of the Mondays?" He was like, "What?" And I was like, "What? Have you not seen Office Space?" And he was like, "Not even a little. I don't know what you're talking about." I was like, "Well, this is the most awkward interaction that I've ever had."
You mean Josh? Huh? Your boss?
No,
Josh?
I didn't. It was Bob. I went up to Bob. Was like, "It looks like somebody's got a case of the Monday." Just to being that guy.
You can't like bring a DVD into work anymore either and be like, "Here, pop this in."
And he was like, "What?" Never mind. I'm gonna go back to my desk.
Do you think he went home and said, "Hey, anybody ever say you got a case of the Mondays?" And that person said, "No, get your ass kicked for saying something like that, man."
No, man.
No. Here though, this week in college football, and we'll talk about it later in the show, Royden, but I do want to start out with something that's a little more interesting. This is a weird, we've had the opening week, which had like 3 or 4 really good marquee games. Then we had last week, which had a whole bunch of really good games.
Yeah.
And then this week, which is, it's like everybody.
Long Island University, baby.
It's like everybody got together and said, all right, listen, week 3, let's not get too creative.
Yeah. This is something new sort of for all conferences, because if I remember correctly, like the SEC would always play, and they still sometimes do, they would always play their cupcake and like bury it in like week 9.
Oh, they still do, yeah.
Yeah, bury it in week 9 where everybody's beating the hell out of each other, and then they come in and they're just like, hey, if we play like Alabama A&T, like, do you think anybody would realize it? And everybody's like, nah, don't worry about it.
Well, and the thing is that everybody else but the SEC will comment on it.
Yeah.
And then their excuse is like, you see our schedule, bro?
Yeah.
Our schedule's tough, bro. Okay? We need to do this. It's you wouldn't understand because you're not as cool as us kind of a thing. And no. I just know that in the other leagues, USC that week is going to be playing Washington.
Yeah.
Texas probably got TCU or Kansas State in that week. Of course, they're about
Kansas State and Texas Tech are murdering each other.
Yeah, all those things going on, like the ACC. I think in that Clemson plays North Carolina, so it's like do or die for everybody else. And then you're like, what is Tennessee doing this week? And they're like,
Grambling.
Yeah, we are paying somebody $1 million. I mean, to get a win.
Granted. If you're a Baylor fan, not all wins are created or bought for equally.
No,
paid for equally.
And
rather.
look, that we'll talk about. I want to get your opinion towards the end of this segment.
Do you really?
I do. I really do. On what's going on with Baylor, but just to kind of rapid fire through kind of the big stories of the week with you, Royden. Texas, they're not saying they're back. I don't think anybody else should say they're back.
Yeah.
But that was a significantly big milestone for Steve Sarkisian.
It was a drubbing, man, too. It didn't need there was a moment there where it felt like, okay, Alabama is inevitable when some of their drives were stalling, but yet they were still hanging around. I think they brought it within a touchdown with 9 minutes left or something like that, and I was like, this will probably end up going the way of the greatest coach of all time. But they just kind of overpowered them. Is Overshone's the tight end? They had no answer for him down the
Jatavian Sanders.
Sanders. Okay,
yeah.
sorry.
Overshone plays for the Cowboys.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
No, why I got that confused. But yeah, Sanders, they had no answer for him. He wears 0, so it always confuses me. They had no answer for him down the stretch. Quinn Ewers, I've given him a lot of flack for somebody that has, hasn't played a lot of football. Maybe unfairly I've done that. But he looked great. Granted, their playbook is screen left, screen right, bomb downfield. But everybody was talking about the play of Alabama's quarterback. That secondary looked like toast.
Well, I mean, Texas has weapons now.
Yeah.
Where it's truly pick your poison.
Right.
Like who are you going to try and stop? And to be honest with you, like the teams I've watched this year that have looked the best and the deepest to me are Washington. Look really good. Michigan hasn't played anybody yet, but I'm going to tell you they look really good and really, like I can tell you they're really deep. My beloved Florida State Seminoles are fantastic and deep.
I'm not going to lie to you. They look great.
They look really, really good. And, you know, like Texas is in there. Like USC, obviously, like they've done, like, and all these teams have kind of been built in a similar fashion. I
turned that game on, just a quick sidebar. I turned that game on the other day where it was like, oh, they're keeping it close with like 5 minutes left in the first quarter. It was 7-7 or 14-7. USC was on top. I went upstairs, like I grabbed some water, went upstairs, went to bed, turned it on. It was 49-17 before the half.
Yeah.
They're going to be able to put up points, no duh, but yeah.
I can't wait for Colorado to play them. I can't wait. Because
first to 65,
because it's going to be an absolute shootout, and of the just turnstile defense there too. So, but they've all looked really, really good to me. You know,
Georgia is better than anybody else, probably, but like their offense is still trying to figure it out.
Yeah,
you know, granted they haven't covered the 65-point spreads that they've been given every single week. So we say like, oh, what's wrong with Georgia? But I think they'll be okay.
I think somebody's going to get them because it's hard to do what they're trying to do, and somebody will get them eventually. Yeah. And their schedule's not really that tough. Somebody's going to get them. That doesn't probably change the fact that they'll probably be in the playoff. But also, like the risky run of being the team that gets Georgia is then setting them on fire for every moment after that. Of being that moment where Kirby Smart, who got a bunch of kids who clearly were very susceptible to propaganda. Last year
nobody believes in you.
Yeah.
Nobody has ever believed in you. You're a 5-star prospect, but let me tell you, nobody's ever believed in you once.
We are paying you 6 figures to be here. We paid more than everybody else because we set up this gigantic collective because we don't want to stop this. We're addicted now.
Yeah.
But believe me, nobody thinks you can do this.
Yeah. Like, just reading the headlines, eating the trash. It's
there's
awesome.
A difference between everybody thinks you can and no one wants you to.
Right.
Like there's the difference. Mm-hmm. Like nobody wants you to because college football fans are starved for variety.
Right.
And that's why they don't want you to, but.
Well, it's the same thing with the Kansas City Chiefs in the NFL. Everyone could pick the Kansas City Chiefs, and they probably should. That is boring and bad. Like, can we all get past the thing where it's like, no, nobody believed in the Chiefs. Nobody believed in them. It's like we're creating a television show here. If everybody went chalk Georgia down the line, like.
Yeah, exactly. We need better stuff. That's the point. All right. So this week we get to week 3, and it's just we don't know where a lot of people really are yet. You know, for example, LSU plays Mississippi State. That is a game I'm very curious about because I want to see how LSU responds 2 weeks after they were very disappointed in the way they played in the second half against Florida State, and Florida State ran past them.
Yeah. Well, they also had no interest in like protecting Jaden Daniels at all. So.
Mississippi State is 2-0, and I don't know if that's fool's gold or anything yet, but they have a quarterback in Will Rogers who's pretty good. They can make things happen, but I'm interested to see those 1-1 teams here in week 3 and what they do if they're not playing the cupcake. You know, Clemson got to 1-1, but they played Charleston Southern.
It was a close game, actually, for a half. But yeah,
and I think Dabo went in and peeled the paint off the walls. But probably about time to. And those interest me this week. Look, Pitt 1-1 versus West Virginia, who is 1-1 themselves, but 1 to Duquesne win and 1 pretty bad loss to Penn State that they were never in that game. Who is Pitt? They just lost to Cincinnati. Who is Cincinnati? I mean, there's all these
2-0, baby.
Yeah, 2-0, and Emory Jones. I was a big Emory Jones doubter. I thought the proof is already in the pudding, but sometimes a coach finds you find each other, and you can make beautiful music together.
Yeah, I mean, they still have talent there. They were down last year from that team that went to the playoff, and ended up getting blown out by Alabama, but hung with them for a while. I mean, you had first-round picks and Sauce Gardner and so on and so forth on that team. Obviously, you're going to be down from that team. But I didn't think they always recruited well. I didn't think they lost that much talent, or people weren't going to stop going to Cincinnati all of a sudden, who was the best of the rest before they came to the Big 12. I thought that Luke Fickell leaving was going to be a bigger loss than it has been so far. Granted, I mean, what do you think about Wisconsin? I don't know.
Well, look, I also think, and we're kind of scattershotting here, but it's interesting to me. Washington State was on a mission.
Yeah.
Like an absolute mission, because they and Oregon State probably feel the same way of okay, leave us behind. Now we have they have no fear of anything anymore, because what does it matter?
Every Pac-12 team, if you're playing a Pac-12 team and you're not in the Pac-12, watch out, because it's there's rage behind those eyes, I feel like, especially if they've been left behind. Yeah.
Especially if you're Washington State and Oregon State, and you've got players who are trying to prove they belong on that level, and you're playing a team from a conference that stole 4 of your teams.
Yeah.
You're definitely going to send a message oh, you think you're hot stuff, Wisconsin. Okay.
Yeah. I know we're going around and around, but it's talking about the 2-0 teams, Oregon State especially, DJ looks really good. They are playing future conference opponent in San Diego State, and that is a game to watch out for, especially on the West Coast. And just to continue the scattered shot, Colorado and Colorado State. So they're for real? What?
I mean, they're for real. They can score with anybody. I don't know if they can stop everybody. I mean, they gave up 42 points to TCU. Jeff Sims seemed intent on keeping Nebraska out of that game before he got injured. And this is year 1 of Matt Rule, where he does tear things down to the rivets. He really does. There's accusations of that being a negative thing, but I do think to install his culture, he's you're on board or you're not. And so
that whole thing, and I know you wanted to eventually talk about, the whole transfer portal, getting players in and stuff, but the Matt Rule Nebraska thing was always interesting to me, because the how he goes about it, because tearing a team down to the studs and kicking players out and whatever in college football never made sense to me, because there's literally no incentive to do it. I mean, I get that you want players in there who want to be there, want to be in your system, and that you can mold in your likeness, I guess. But it's not the NFL. There's no incentive to tank.
No, I don't think it's about tanking. It's just about building.
I get it.
Knowing that he has no.
But my whole thing is winning's always better than losing.
Yeah, he has no pressure to fix it in year 1.
Fair.
Now, in year 2, he does, but we've seen how people can rebuild better and easier now because of the transfer portal. So we'll talk about that in the next segment, because the teams that I think are going to be hanging around are the ones who have built through the portal the best this year. And so he's going to have to do that. It's only 1 year in. Look, Deion and Colorado are really good, but eventually they're going to run up against somebody like USC or Oregon, who's already been doing this a little while, and that's where they'll probably lose a game or so. But I think this team's absolute floor, if the bottom completely fell out, is 7-5. I think that right now, to me, they look like an 8-4. They really do look like an 8-4 team to me.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I think the floor is probably 6 wins, bowl game. Granted, they are playing Travis Hunter 1,000 plays, and will that? This is the conversation that's been happening for 2 weeks. Will that continue to hold up? Will it, maybe some athletes are just freak athletes, like you get once in a generation. Deion Sanders was one of those.
Yeah.
You get one of those talented players that can just do it. He may be one of those guys. But also, yeah, their defense isn't extremely deep. We're going to see how well their lines hold up. And eventually they're going to have to test some of that depth of the 50-plus players that they brought in. Are they all ready to play?
And look, just to be fair, I'm not knocking Chandler Morris. I do have feelings about Jeff Sims and how good he really is. But I'm not knocking Chandler Morris. But Chandler Morris and Jeff Sims, and forgive me for forgetting Colorado State's quarterback's name as we're doing this, but they are not Caleb Williams and Bo Nix.
No.
So that's going to be the true test of where they are is how do you do against –
Or DJ Uyunglele, to be completely honest.
They're not those three guys. You know, they're not – you know, I don't know if they get Washington State this year. They're not Cameron Ward either. Mm-hmm. So they're not those guys. So as they get and start playing against the quarterbacks that are plus, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm not doubting Colorado at all. I'm just saying that it's going to look different when they play those teams because they're better.
What do you think their ratings? Because they had huge ratings for this past
10
this
million
weekend.
People watched it.
Yeah, that was crazy. 10 million people watched it, and then a bunch of other people watched another game. I can't remember which.
Probably Bama and Texas, I would think.
Oh, no, it was Bama, Texas, and then, both 10 million people watched both of those games.
Yeah.
Or 9 million for Alabama and Texas, regardless. You think the ESPN executives are just like everybody batting down the hatches this week because it's going to be nasty?
Yeah.
The amount, like, there's no huge. I mean, Deion's the draw, right?
Yeah, he's the draw. Which is what brings me to another question: is how long can you keep the NFL away from him?
Well, he already came out years ago and was like, I should have been the front runner for the Atlanta Falcons head coaching job.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I don't know. NFL's a whole different ball game.
No, but that's what I like. Honestly, everybody's like wondering where Deion's going to go in like the SEC, and I think that it's beyond that now.
It's just the Indianapolis Colts.
Like, why not?
Yeah.
If you're an owner who can not only tolerate it but needs that kind of spark, then there are teams. Look,
Cardinals, come on down.
To a lesser extent, that's what the Lions did with Dan Campbell. Now, Dan Campbell is not a celebrity.
Right.
You'd only know him if you were a deep, heavy football fan.
Mm-hmm.
But he is the guy who is able to go out there and say I understand that the Detroit Lions are a terrible franchise, but I'm going to tell you right now that that's over now.
Yeah.
And look at me. I'm going to say all the things you need to hear me say. Deion fits that mold a little bit to me. And if the owner can handle it, for example, he could never play for one of his former teams.
You don't think he could play for coach for Jerry?
No.
No?
He could coach for Steven.
Oh.
Steven probably wouldn't mind. Jerry, on the other hand, it would be
I'd love to see it.
It better work out really fast.
It'd be incredible television.
Because the difference between Jimmy Johnson and Deion Sanders as far as ego goes is razor thin. Razor thin. So, and again, not saying any of this is bad. I'm just an outside observer, but that's what I think is next for him as we continue scattershotting. This segment is a little bit jazz.
I was off work yesterday. This is the first person I've talked to.
Honestly, it feels like beep bop and
exactly.
Then and they're like, oh wait, lay that track down again.
Sonny, cooking.
Sonny, come in with that drum beat. That's what's going on here.
Listen to the show where white people explain jazz to you.
There are plenty of legendary.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. When we come back.
Call this La La Land because white people are explaining jazz.
How teams are building through the transfer portal,
right,
and how that changes how we have to assess teams and their ability to compete right now, because we're about 3 years into this thing, and I think it started to flip on its ear a little bit.
Yeah.
As where you can't just say, well, this team has the most 5 stars, because some of those guys have already walked out the door. This is the Triple Option on 365 Sports.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on multiple shared public networks, you've probably been feeling the slowdown. And that's no good for business. A private UPN fiber network can get you and your business moving at the speed of light. Whatever you need, we can build it. Internet, Metro Ethernet, Waves, dark fiber. We deliver custom private networks and are focused on business customers only. Our next generation 100% fiber optic infrastructure offers you low latency and ultra scalable bandwidth with speeds up to 100 gigabit to run your critical applications. Your connection won't be limiting your performance anymore. It's diverse and scalable, so it can grow and change as your business grows and changes. And with a secure carrier-grade private network, you'll have all the reliability you need. Contact UPN today to learn more. Fast just got faster.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Welcome back to the Triple Option. Paul Catalina and Royden Ogletree here. And Royden, we talked about this, that teams are building, and they can, through the transfer portal now. And at first, I think a lot of people thought, like, well, what are you getting out of the transfer portal? If you are good at it, like if you're not just going to the big box store and going, we need 40 players and getting the,
in bulk
players, if you are careful about it over several seasons, then it appears that you can really build a team pretty well. Florida State is maybe the best example of it right now, although Texas, there was a time where Texas didn't even take JUCO guys. Like they would not. You could be the best JUCO guy in the country at a position they desperately needed, and Texas would be
will take the 4-star over you anytime.
They're not going to take. They're going to take a JUCO guy, even though he's already as muscular as he's going to be, and he's developed, and he's an offensive lineman. You need a left guard. He's a left guard. Like no, we'll take the prospect first. Now, look, Texas. I mean, Deion Sanders is a transfer, and Adonai Mitchell's a transfer, and Isaiah Naor, who's hardly even playing, a transfer.
I mean, hell,
Quinn Ewers is a transfer.
Yeah.
All of these, I don't know how many on their offensive line are. I mean, a lot of those guys are recruited, but
a lot of those guys were like 5-star recruits, and a few of them were freshmen that played last year.
Yeah. But you go across, I mean, they're getting transfers. Like I said, Mike Norvell's done a steady 3-year build of this, and then he's gotten so much where he can go in the portal and go this Keon Coleman guy's really good. I mean, we don't really need a wide receiver, but we need that wide receiver, so I'm going to go get him. And
I'll tell you who's been a little, sorry to interrupt your point, a little behind the times on it is, I mean, Alabama fans will probably get mad at me, but people are coming out of Alabama, not going into Alabama, it feels like. Now, I know they do have transfers that play a large role.
Jermaine Burton.
Yeah.
From Georgia, yeah.
But, it feels like more of you see more of, he was a transfer from Alabama. He was a transfer from Alabama.
I'm glad you brought that up. It's something I want to talk about. I brought it up to Phil Bennett yesterday when we had him on the show, that it's not necessarily going to stop Alabama from winning like they do, because Saban is so good at what he does. He'll figure a way through the storm. But what it does is, take, for example, the 3 guys who went to TCU. Maybe all 3 of them were not going to start at Alabama this year, but they're starting at TCU. Well, does that mean TCU is going to win the national title? No, but it means that TCU's got 3 good players that now Alabama can't develop, that he could rely on, that all right, well, they're not going to start when they're sophomores, but when they're juniors, they're all going to start, and I will have had them in my system for 2 years, and I don't have to worry. Brockermeyer, boom, there's my left, I guess he's a tackle. Sanders is going to play running back. JoJo Earl was my 4th wide receiver last year. Now he's my 2nd wide receiver. Great. Everything's working out for me. This is the plan. So while he's still going to get the best of the best, and if he wants to go into the transfer portal and get a player, most of the time he's going to get the best one available at that position. He still is losing a lot of the meat of his team, because Miami has 3 Alabama transfers. TCU has 3 Alabama transfers. Heck, USC has an Alabama transfer. So they've got all these guys that are transferring out, and yes, they can replace them, but now that's thrown a wrench in the timeline that Nick Saban got used to.
Well, it used to be, and we all saw it for years, is that you were not playing at Alabama unless you were just all world. You were not playing at Alabama until you were like a redshirt sophomore or even a junior. And that is why they were killed, because they were grown men out there, every single one of them playing. You were going to come in, you were going to redshirt, you were going to learn the system, your body was going to get better, and then you were going to come in and destroy everyone. They had that running back rotation for a decade of dudes that were just coming in there as grown men, like, so-and-so, Derrick Henry beget Josh Jacobs beget so-and-so.
Yeah.
And so it just continued on forever, DJ Yeldon or whoever. And they just had this merry-go-round of grown men that would come through there. Yeah. Now, they're maybe having to play younger players that, I'm not dancing on Alabama's grave. They're going to be great still this year, even though they lost. It just feels like they're having to play players before they want to play them.
Jalen Milroe would never have been the starter.
Not once.
Never been the starter at this point in his career. Mm-mm. So he might wind up being a really good quarterback one day. He's got ridiculous physical tools. He might be the best overall athlete on the entire Alabama team. He's a silly athlete. Mm-hmm. Silly. But is he a quarterback yet? No. I mean, I think we've seen that. Like, if the throw is, all right, fast guy, go run, and I will throw it to where you are, that's a throw he can make.
Yeah.
If it is
crossing pattern over the middle.
If it is agility related, then he's in trouble because he really only has one arm speed, which is cannon.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have that touch right now. So, and they took that competition all the way down to the wire and don't. Because again, in Nick Saban's plan before, and I'll go way back, Brody Croyle, Greg McElroy, Jacob Coker. That's before they started getting to then they had Mac Jones and Tua and Bryce Young. So, and I'm probably leaving somebody out.
Somebody said
AJ McCarron,
future Republican senators in Alabama.
Yeah, but AJ McCarron, all those guys that have come through and won titles for them or gotten them really close, they were in the system for a while. Tua had to wait. Tua had to wait.
That was sort of the beginning of the end, not the end, but the beginning.
Jalen Hurts, for God's sakes.
The Tua thing was sort of the beginning of I maybe have to start playing these players a little bit sooner than I want to.
Yeah,
that's a rare case because Tua threw for 500 yards in an NFL game.
But now that is flipped on its ear, where Tua's the freshman who pushed the veteran out the door. Mm-hmm. The veteran usually would push the freshman to another play. Yeah. Well, I'm not going to play for 2 years because Jalen Hurts is here. Well,
I'll go to Miami.
I'll go somewhere else. So, like the most successful, back in the day, some of the most successful transfer quarterbacks, you would never even have realized they were transfers because they just,
showed up 3 years ago.
Yeah, well, yeah, no, but I mean, I'll go back 25 years. A&M won the Big 12. The last time A&M won a conference title was 1998. They won the Big 12. The Sir Parker touchdown was very famous.
Has it been that long?
Yeah, it's 1998. That's the last time they won the conference. So that play was Brandon Stewart was the quarterback. Brandon Stewart was from Stephenville, Texas, and played on that very famous Stephenville state championship team under Art Briles, I think the first one. And so he went to Tennessee in 1995 or 4, whenever that was. Maybe 94. And the two other quarterbacks on that roster were Todd Helton, possible future Major League Baseball Hall of Famer, and Peyton Manning. So Peyton Manning took over the job from Todd Helton during his freshman year, and Brandon Stewart realized, well, that's it for me here.
I'm done.
I'm not going to play here. This guy's the truth. So he's got to leave. And so that was how it used to be, And then eventually he winds up starting at A&M. You're like, oh, that's that guy who couldn't beat up Peyton Manning. Or you didn't know that. You're like, oh, he's just here now.
Yeah.
As opposed to now, it's completely flipped on its ear.
Well, I mean, and we were talking about this, and we were talking to Deion Sanders of it all. I mean, DJ Kinney did it too, and we saw them come in here and beat up Baylor, where they had, 40, 50 transfers. Deion Sanders, the whole thing has been we're just going to tear this down. But It's not like a Matt Rule teardown like we were talking in the last segment. It is we are playing to win. Now I have all these guys in here expecting to win. I mean, you say like, oh, we don't need to do the wholesale thing. Some of these programs don't. But what do you think about the whole?
Well, I mean, like, it's not even wholesale. Like, they were pretty.
Think every coach can do that.
No, I don't think.
I think it is Deion Sanders.
But they were But I mean, like, other ones were like Mike Norvell was pretty judicious about who he took. Like, he knew he needed guys, but he got really aggressive on certain guys. Like, this is guy I need to make sure that he is here at Florida State, and as opposed to going, all right, we just need a center. So like, go get the best one that says yes first. You know, they were really good about that. Now, Deion has a bit of a different thing. Is if he walks in a room, it's like, I'm Deion Sanders. Would you like to come and play for me? Yeah. And it's like, okay, it's different. But he didn't win every battle, and he's not going to win every battle because he's going for volume. So sometimes you're like, yeah, but I know that you've already asked like 7 other guys too. So I don't know if I'm going to play or not. So that's the only disadvantage he has at all is that. But they were, at least with their skill position players, especially able to go get like some pretty excellent talent.
Well, granted, it helps when like our D1 athletes were already playing for you at
Jackson State.
State. Like that helps. Like his son clearly was a D1 player.
That's huge because if he's got another son, Shiloh, that's on the team, it's the defensive back. If Shedeur
Hunter was a 5-star prospect, that was the biggest thing in recruiting history.
I think because it's all about the quarterback, right?
Yeah.
If Shedeur was like a safety or something, would he have been able to say like, "No, I promise you, we're going to be good on offense this year"? And you're like, can you really?
Yeah.
And they're like, "Well, no, Shedeur is the quarterback. Believe me, he's really good. He came to Jackson State with me, but he could have gone a lot of other places, you know."
I think the wholesale thing works at a program like Colorado, who was historically bad.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are saying, well, they replaced all these players. Then the other argument is they had the opportunity to replace all those players. Those players weren't good. Sorry to the players at Colorado.
Yeah.
But they won one game.
1-11.
Yeah. So it's not like we're replacing the cream of the crop. Any people that you brought in were probably going to be better than what you had in there. There was one guy, I remember, that got the interception against TCU in the end zone. He was the only guy that was still there on that started on defense.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of things here. One, I think it works because it's Deion Sanders, and he has the charisma and the football knowledge to go into a room and be like, come and play. Whereas some of these coaches who it's like watching paint dry when they're not talking about football, you know, and they're talking about their lives. They're like, yeah, I just go home and I watch football and I do football. And it's like, that's not Deion Sanders. It feels like it's harder for them. It would be harder for them to do the whole, we're just going to tear it down to the studs and redo this whole thing.
I do think that like the tear down of the studs is, you have to be certain, but you do have to now. I mean, I think you can build a whole team through the transfer portal if you do it. We're going to take 10 this year and 10 this year and 10 this year. And then
but the whole 50 a year thing.
50 a year, you can't. Yeah. I think that's unique. Like there may be like Lincoln Riley could do it if he went somewhere else.
Right.
But again,
I guess it's a good starting point and then you build from there.
Yeah. But you know, you still have to recruit, but like what you're doing now is, it used to be, all right, I need 4 years to get my guys in here. Well, now you don't need 4 years. Yeah. You probably need 2 to get some transfer portal guys who can help you win and build something so people can see. It gives you a lot quicker thing of like, look, we were 8-4 last year, and we came out of this. We had transfer portal guys. You know, this is what we've got going. Here's our offensive system. Look at our defense. Like, we just need these few things to get better. Please come here, as opposed to, I'm trying to sell you on a whole new vision that is only abstract right now because I'm trying to tell you, oh, we're going to run this on offense. We're going to do this. You're like, okay.
Yeah.
Great. You know, forgive me, Coach, but I didn't catch Memphis's games all that much, you know.
Well, that's why I don't, you know,
and
only
so,
works for Deion Sanders in that.
Yeah, and that's like, but you do have to have that, and you know, have to weather a storm a little while, but you can turn something around a whole lot quicker now.
Yeah, and that's why I do find it infuriating for some of these coaches. Well, we just didn't have our guys. It's like, go get 10 more guys. You know, like, it's like, obviously we've just said this entire time, and you've just said, like, you don't want to just bring in a guy for the sake of bringing in a guy, but the whole we don't have depth thing makes no sense to me.
Well, and
makes no sense to me. And you cannot sell, like you said, you cannot sell anymore that, oh, well, we just need 4 years to get our guys in here. Nope. You got, and sorry to some of these coaches, you got 2 years.
Well, and look, it's shown with Dabo Swinney has decided he doesn't like it.
Yeah, and it's come back to bite him.
But everybody around him's doing it. So it's one of those things like, yeah, you know what? Like, you're now in a prison of your own making because you've decided like, oh, I'm going to do it the right way. Well, what's the right way?
There is no right way.
There's no right way. Like
there is the way, and then you'll get fired.
Yeah, you're creating this. Like this is only in his head.
Yeah.
Look, you think Nick Saban really likes it? No, because he knows that it's harder because this kid that he knows needs 2 years to play, and he tells them that, but about a year and a half in, the kid gets impatient and leaves, and then goes and helps somebody else, and they don't have a good cornerback now because he's gone to play somewhere he's going to start, even though he probably would have started at Alabama because he got impatient because kids are impatient. Yeah, like all these things. So
there's multiple factors that play into this.
Exactly.
I don't besmirch a kid for wanting to go play football.
Yeah.
I do think it would be beneficial to some of these kids to still stay in the system that they originally picked with some of these major coaches like Nick Saban, because like I was saying, it used to be you were a junior, you come up, you play 2 years. Hey, look at that. You're a first or second round pick. Crazy how that happens, I don't besmirch a kid for going and getting his money either with how times are now. Go do it. Go do whatever it is that you feel the need to do for you and your family. But also, I don't feel bad for coaches that was like, well, our guys just left. It's just like,
I think
there's other guys. You know what I mean? There's so many other guys.
The streets of the transfer portal are littered with different things, like players who were impatient, immature, and were like, oh, well, I'm not playing, so I'm going to get in the portal. And then all the other coaches are like, well, yeah, we know why you're not playing. Like,
that's the other thing too.
You're going to be like, you're in that there's kids that sit in the portal and don't go anywhere.
They don't play
because coaches are like, well, we know why you're in the portal. You're not good. Like you're not ready. Like you should probably stay where you were unless they wanted you gone.
Yeah.
Now part of that is, sometimes you can have that Deion thing where it's like you better go get in that portal. Or like Texas a couple years ago, when they were 5-7, coach had the very famous rant on the bus where he's like, look, you don't want to be here. Portal door is wide open. We will help you fill out the paperwork. Here you go, because we don't need you here. So those things are all that. It's kids with discipline problems, kids with academic problems, all that. But going to find the right system for you, like here's the thing. Going to find the right system for you, you're playing behind somebody who is, look, Joe Burrow, is playing behind Justin Fields, right? Well, okay, bummer for Joe Burrow. Like he wasn't going to get on the field in front of Justin Fields. So he went to LSU and became Joe freaking Burrow. Mm-hmm. Those are ones that make a lot of sense to me. There's some that are like, well, I'm a freshman, I haven't played yet. We're like, yeah, but you're still 171 pounds. So, drink some protein shakes, lift some weights, and then talk to them later. Like those are the things. And then, of course, obviously kids going to get their money right now.
Yeah.
But I can assure you this. There are some times where, like, if a kid goes from Georgia to Alabama, like Jermaine Burton did, like, what money? Like, what are you talking about? Like,
what's the exchange rate between Georgia and Alabama?
They both have NIL collectives. You're getting money. Like, that's why when transfers happen between schools like that, like, I would think you're just completely kind of splitting hairs, or you just really want to leave. Because if I decided to transfer from Georgia to USC tomorrow, like, I'm not, like, USC is not going to double my money. I just want to be.
You want to run fast, man.
Yeah, so I don't know. Like those are the things that do it. But coaches, I think you have to really embrace, and we've seen it. It's helped Texas tremendously, and it helps you also. Like, okay, say you had a class at three positions. You thought like, man, we got some really good DBs. We had 2 good D tackles and like 3 good offensive linemen in this class. And then by the time they're juniors, are like, well, this guy got hurt. This guy, transferred. And then these other guys just haven't come along. Well, you know what you can do? Go get the ones that are that are better.
Yeah, and it may take those kids a little bit longer to figure out the system because they haven't been there as long. So there's going to be growing pains there regardless. I think offense is obviously easier than defense to learn some of that stuff. But I think it allows you to, we're talking in circles, but it allows you to not have those depth issues that we've talked about and that you've seen from some of these teams. So yeah, I think the excuse of we just didn't have our guys just doesn't fly anymore.
It puts a lot of pressure on you as a coach when you're a guy like, say, Dave Aranda, who has not used the portal as much. This year he did. Last year he did not. And
it came back to hurt him because those guys haven't been in his system now for another year.
So yeah, it's come back to hurt him. And then when you say, well, I just need more time, you're like, well, this guy didn't need that time.
Yeah.
So it's really gonna hurt you because you have a new tool at your disposal. And as long as they, and I agree with the coaches that there needed to be some kind of like parameters on the calendar because the recruiting calendar is already bonkers as it is. But outside of that,
I think the problem is that you were saying like some of these guys don't fit, just sit in the portal. That's a really big issue that I don't think a lot of people have talked about. I think 247 did some in-depth reporting and numbers about how many kids ended up finding new homes, and it's astronomical the amount of kids that are just still in the portal, just not playing football anymore, and not even at a D1 level, like D2, whatever. They just have not found a home. So the grass isn't always greener on the other side. For the best of the best, you'll find a home. But for these middling, 3-star average recruits that have kind of sat on the bench, I don't know, man. You may just have to be patient. That's the unfortunate nature of it because playing football is, always better than not.
Yeah, no, it absolutely is true. When we come back, we wrap it up. We talk Michigan State and what the season looks like for them going forward.
Yeah,
with their interim head coach, and it's a heavy topic. I guess we don't try to do those that much on the Triple Option, but we haven't addressed it yet. This is the Triple Option on 365 Sports.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on multiple shared public networks, you've probably been feeling the slowdown. And that's no good for business. A private UPN fiber network can get you and your business moving at the speed of light. Whatever you need, we can build it. Internet, Metro Ethernet, Waves, dark fiber. We deliver custom private networks and are focused on business customers only. Our next generation 100% fiber optic infrastructure offers you low latency and ultra scalable bandwidth with speeds up to 100 gigabit to run your critical applications. Your connection won't be limiting your performance anymore. It's diverse and scalable, so it can grow and change as your business grows and changes. And with a secure carrier-grade private network, you'll have all the reliability you need. Contact UPN today to learn more. Fast just got faster.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Welcome back to the Triple Option here on 365 Sports. Royden Ogletree, KWTX, joins me now. And Royden,
in boxes.
Yeah, right there. Oh, look, that's the fun one. We do.
No, I did a nice little, hey.
Whoa.
Nice little fade in, 1970s.
There we go. Awesome. All right. What's not awesome is what's going on at Michigan State right now.
What a transition.
That is not awesome in any way, shape, or form. Mel Tucker has been suspended without pay or with pay. I don't know what he is now. I'm confused. But he's been suspended right now. He's on leave.
I think it with pay pending an investigation or without. Yeah. I guess it doesn't matter.
They're investigating. He's got a hearing October 5th and 6th. Brenda Tracy, if you don't know who she is a women's rights advocate and a sexual assault survivor who her main area of things is athletics and going and dealing with teams because because that was her experience as football players that were not prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. And so she goes around and her job is to educate players on how to be better and different and the things to avoid. And Mel Tucker has been accused by her of sexually harassing her, and he's admitted to some of the things, and from his perspective, he feels their relationship is different. I will tell you this. Even if Mel Tucker is telling the 100% truth here, which I don't know if we're going to get the 100% truth from either side on this, because it's a very strange story. But even if he's telling the 100% truth, I would fire him at Michigan State for the sheer lack in judgment of putting yourself in this position.
Yeah, you got to be on. It's not that difficult of a decision, to be honest with you. And I know we're going to have a lot of varying comments, I'm sure, on this topic, because a lot of very cool heads will prevail when it comes to talking about this stuff. You cannot put yourself in such a compromising position as to be caught flirting with the woman that is there talking to your team about sexual assault.
Yeah.
What are you doing? What are you doing? The sheer incompetence of that is mind-boggling. And look, it's a difficult conversation to talk about it in general, but it does to me highlight, and this woman came and spoke at Baylor, correct? And
yes.
She has great things to say about Baylor on Twitter, and that she was welcome.
No, she
was that not her?
That's not her.
Oh, sorry. I believe that was.
No.
It was a different
her experience
woman,
at Baylor was very, very different.
I thought
she came and spoke to Baylor.
That was a different woman. I completely apologize.
You're talking about Rachel Baribeau.
Yes.
She's different. Brenda Tracy's experience at Baylor was she came to speak with them in 2016.
Oh, right.
After all that went down. And then Tate Wallace, who was the wide receivers coach at the time, ran her down in the hallway and berated her about being there.
Right.
And why is she here? And she recorded that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Or somebody did, because it's out there and you can hear it. And what he said. And, part of it was that staff was very, like, those assistant coaches very much on the defensive the whole time. And so
it wasn't a great time.
She came very much right out after that and said, I was treated very poorly. This is what happened. She made Baylor look worse than they already did. To whatever varying degree they earned that, it was more or less because an assistant coach could not, whether he felt she was right or wrong,
keep his mouth shut.
Let her leave and deal with it later. Like, honestly, half the stuff that you heard from her about Baylor would probably have never been heard if he had just been like, all right, enjoy your flight. Thanks for coming. We learned a lot, and then moved on. But that's not what happened. And
thus is the tale as old as time with that situation at Baylor to begin with. But
yes, so that's what happened. So yes. And
then, I apologize. That was the wrong. Was the wrong one. There was another. There was another advocate.
Rachel Baribeau has come back several times. She worked with Baylor a lot. She, in the aftermath of that, said, "Well, that's probably not going to help those guys out any who need to learn a few things. So I'm going to go and I'm going to Her thing has changed the narrative, and then Brenda Tracy's deal is set the expectation. So
I will say this about this whole situation with Mel Tucker, and especially as it equates to women in the workplace and taking her at her word, which is, I think, something that people have been not fast enough to do in the past for women that have been sexually harassed, which I think is something that we need to take a deeper look at in this country in general. But I think it really is a interesting look at how much women put up with in the workplace in these situations. In no world should she go into this situation, into this workplace, is what it essentially amounts to her, and then have to deal with like flirtatious advances from the head coach.
Look, and here's the thing.
No woman should have like you shouldn't be in that position anyway, but especially from what amounts to the CEO of this company.
At the end of the day, when it comes to okay, so say she did start some sort of personal relationship with Mel Tucker. Okay, clearly there was something there because they've been exchanging text messages and things over the time.
Late night phone calls.
Yeah, those things happened. Well, the minute she decides it's over, it's over. It can't be there wasn't no, I mean, we had this, our relationship was this way. Well, until it's not. That's the way it is with everything. And I'll just say that to play devil's advocate for her here, look, if a male motivational speaker went to go talk to a women's basketball team, the likelihood that he would be anywhere after that, the coach would call him up and be like, "Hey, you want to get dinner?" That probably wouldn't happen.
No.
So not that it's impossible, but it's not. It's very improbable.
Right.
So these are the things that are different. And again, Mel, think whatever you want to about Brenda Tracy. Her online Twitter persona is well documented. Think whatever you want to about Mel Tucker, but the bottom line is, at the end of it, Mel Tucker is the CEO. You said it. He is the CEO of Michigan State University football, a university that does not have a track record that they can brag about at all when it comes to answering the bell. And this situation is in no way near the last one with Larry Nassar, but they don't have a reputation. So if you work for that university and you're taking $9.5 million as a paycheck, it's incumbent upon you. You need to know that that'll go away fast if you misstep, because they're out of them. They're completely out of
redos. Yeah, they're out of there's no grace.
Look, here. Baylor cannot take a football player on their roster for maybe the next 20 years who's even gotten in trouble in high school for arguing with someone. They can't do it because of what happened here. They cannot do it. Whether that's how it is. They have to take guys who are squeaky clean when they get them here. Now, what happens after that is different, but
there's the whole thing that I'm sure we'll get comments about is second chances, innocent and proven guilty. You can't do it.
The problem is
it doesn't exist. It does not exist at Michigan State. It does not exist at Baylor. It does not exist at a lot of these schools that have had these sort of things.
Any of those things have anything to do with any of these new people? No. But it's just they can't take the risk because it's not worth the headache, right?
Right.
And it doesn't make sense, but it's just how it is. And
it's something you may not, as a viewer, you may not believe in or whatever, but I'm just saying they have gone through Michigan State, I think my friend was telling me they had gone through 4 presidents in 5 years or something like that.
Yeah.
Of course, I'll add on to that the Larry Nassar situation, which exacerbates this entire thing. And it just is unconscionable to think that this is something that you thought was a good idea.
Well, and look, if I'm Michigan State and this comes across my desk, and I'm like, okay, so the football coach has been charged with sexual harassment. Who is charging him with sexual harassment? Oh, the lady we came to teach the players about sexual harassment. I'd been like, Mel, buddy, what are you doing? And how can you put yourself in this position? That's why he's going to eventually probably get let go, because even if his story is 100% true, you put yourself in a position that exposed the university, that exposed you, that did this, that made you look bad. Can't have it.
Will the whole with cause thing come into play here? It's gonna get real nasty about how much, who's gonna pay what for who.
Ultimately, I think this is gonna be settlement, every which way out the door.
Yeah.
So
there was already talk online of Michigan State fans being tired of Mel Tucker and because they didn't have a good year last year either, and. Granted, are they 2? I mean, this is right secondary. They're 2-0. Yeah. But I'm just saying there was already people is this exactly
that's That's
what
the
we
other
need
thing
to be
about
doing
this.
anyway.
If Michigan State uses this to get out of a bad decision they made, like, that's pathetic. Like, make sure justice is served. That's what you need to do.
Obviously, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, like, there's already, you cannot mess up when you're already on the hot seat.
No.
On top of everything else.
No. All right.
You should be fired regardless of what you got to go, man.
I can't every time somebody Googles Mel Tucker now, they're not getting Mel Tucker
that
football coach.
That Google search is like
it's gonna go south in a hurry. No pun intended. But I do want to give you. We got 5 minutes left. 5 minutes left.
Transition of all transitions.
5 minutes left out of this into what's going on at Baylor. They're about 6-game losing streak. Royden, you're a Baylor alum, a graduate. It's never been the same. Like, they have not lost for the same reason in any of these 6 games.
No.
Like, if it was one thing, they needed a defensive coordinator. They just need to make sure that they get a healthy, group of wide receivers. No, it is something different. Even the games that they didn't lose in a row, but if you go back to last year and they lost, BYU, West Virginia, some of those other ones, there's different reasons for all of them. What's going on?
Everybody's quick to online, especially blame Aranda and the staff, especially. I mean, this was you were playing with a backup quarterback this last game, so that's tough to say what you were really going to get from the offense. But Grimes and company were not good when it came to this last loss. I think it comes down to, one, getting the most talent in there that you possibly could. I know that they want their guys, and we have said that you have to have players that want to be here and players that know what the deal is when you come into Baylor University. That being said, it's not always the best crop of talent that I think that like these upper echelon schools are getting, like even now Texas Tech is seeing. I think they have their own problems, whatever. But I think, one, was a talent issue. Two, what was the quote from Remember the Titans? The attitude reflects leadership. Mm-hmm. Dave Aranda, brilliant man, great guy for all that we know. It is, like I said, good night.
Has he made them too mellow?
Yeah, it's good night moon every single, I don't know what goes on in that locker room, but I was watching some highlights and recaps, and this game was better. But that first game against Texas State, they didn't seem like they wanted to hit anybody. Like, it just was in slow motion. And I don't know what that comes down to. Yeah. Is that a coaching issue? Is that the players that you've brought in here? I don't know. A lot of people want to point to the NIL collective stuff that hasn't had enough reporting on it that I don't know which end is up for Baylor.
Here's the thing. No one's ever really going to know.
Yeah, they don't have to know.
Here's the thing. They don't have
to tell us.
I can assume that things are going well at other places, and then it might all be a house of cards, right?
Yeah.
Because nobody has to. There's no real, for some reason, it still has to be a secret how much money a guy is getting to go to a certain place.
Yeah, I don't.
It's like it's taboo. Like if you went and asked somebody who had your same job as you, if you're like, hey man, I've been here for 3 years. If you don't mind me asking, like, how much money do you make? I'm going to go ask for a raise. Whoa, man. Whoa. Like, I'm not, you and I work together. We're cool. I'm not trying to, not trying to take food off your plate. I'm just like going to ask for a raise. Like, how dare you?
Yeah.
And then
it's like talking to somebody about their religion or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that there's a number of things, and we're going along here, that I cannot pin it down to one thing. It ultimately comes down to, what are you getting out of the players that you have recruited? Mm-hmm. Are you maximizing their potential? What it really came down to, is we were talking about this whole thing, is they're 2 years behind from where they should be.
They did not.
If we're breaking it really down, they did not recruit well enough and did not replace the players like Jalen Petrie, Terrell Bernard, so on and so forth, that they needed to, with guys that were ready to play.
Yeah, they did not respond to winning the Big 12 in the right way. They took a step back after they won, and they gathered no momentum off that. Well, Royden, thanks so much. for being our Tuesday guy.
I couldn't come up with a better name. I'm sorry.
Ruby Tuesday. Maybe
Ruby
we'll call
Tuesday.
you. Yeah, maybe we'll call you
$2
that.
apps.
I'm not gonna pay for the rights for the Rolling Stone song because who has the money? But
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Bittersweet Symphony. Didn't they use that?
Yeah. Let's see.
The verb?
Yeah. I mean, I'll sing part of Goodbye Ruby Tuesday if you want me to, but I don't.
I'd rather you not.
I don't think anybody wants that. Anybody in the room want to hear me do the Stones? Just Levi?
You don't mean that.
No one? Oh, yeah. You probably won't after you hear me sing it. All right, that's going to do it for us. Tomorrow, Steven Simcox is back. Jack, Levi, Garrett, thank you so much. This is the Triple Option on 365 Sports.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on multiple shared public networks, you've probably been feeling the slowdown. And that's no good for business. A private UPN fiber network can get you and your business moving at the speed of light. Whatever you need, we can build it. Internet, Metro Ethernet, Waves, dark fiber. We deliver custom private networks and are focused on business customers only. Our next generation 100% fiber optic infrastructure offers you low latency and ultra scalable bandwidth with speeds up to 100 gigabit to run your critical applications. Your connection won't be limiting your performance anymore. It's diverse and scalable, so it can grow and change as your business grows and changes. And with a secure carrier-grade private network, you'll have all the reliability you need. Contact UPN today to learn more. Fast just got faster.